I gotta turn this air down because it's making too much noise. I'm having some thoughts. And the thoughts, I'll tell you how I got to where I got, but the thoughts that I'm having are revolving around why part of my brain hates women more than it hates white supremacy. Hear me out, right? It's just a thought that just entered my mind. Some people be like, oh my God, that's fucked up. You're a coon. I knew you were a coon. This all that bullshit. But, I'm just thinking about it because I watched that video where the guy was talking about I put it on my community tab, but he was basically talking about this cycle of civilizations, this rise and fall of civilizations and civil unrest and how things fall apart. Basically, the rich get richer, the wealth gap, widens. That makes people more agitated, right? All the subgroups, which obviously encompass the minority groups, and then the way that race and wealth has been set up in America, right? It's going to be largely black people versus white people and whatever other minority groups feel excluded, but by and large, black people and white people. That'll be the headline on the newspaper. You get what I'm saying? That'll be the headline, right? And all type of bullshit will be said. Oh, the black people, they're lazy and they feel entitled and da 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 da. Completely ignoring that the only minority group that was brought here by force and then had every aspect of their culture, orientation, belief system, hierarchies, and everything else stripped from them. So completely different history. But I'm not even mainly, getting into that. I'm just saying, I'm thinking about, when, the rich versus the poor, right? And the poor is supposed to be the black people, and the rich, by and large, is supposed to be the white people, right? But then you got the white people that are also poor. But the white people that are also poor, the thought that I was having is, they'll never side with black people or any other minority group to topple the system, regardless of how unfair the system gets, because they're still members of the dominant society. They're still white. They still ride the hope of being able to, well, it could work. Maybe it could work one day, right? Like, in other words, the current system as it's set up is a system of white supremacy where white wealthy people, are on top. And your poor working class proletariat white people can always aspire, to get up there somehow, some way, regardless of how unfair it is, right? As long as there's the dangling carrot and they see it as, I can hard work my way all the way up to the top, they will fight for that system. They're not going to join forces with, black folks or minority folks and to topple the system when it is a system that is still operated, controlled, and maintained by them as they see it. So they make race a priority over class. And so, this is how, these things, play out. And then, looking at it, thinking about, T Noir and Nappy Headed Jojoba and For Harriet and the stuff that they say, the way that they look at the the patriarchy, right? So like, we walk into space and then we're black men and black women dealing with white supremacy, and now it's where black people or black men dealing with white supremacy, and then separation, black women dealing with white supremacy, and then separation, black women dealing with, black men and, them controlling and trying to imitate, white supremacist, heteronormative, cisgendered capitalism, right? So you get all that bullshit, right? And so now you get this power struggle between black men and black women. Although, some of this is happening in the white community, right? But by and large, I'm saying that's how your nappy-headed jojoba, T Noir, this system is oppressive to women, right? So they got like their own battles that, like, to be quite honest, as men, like, we really don't pay attention to. Some of the grievances that women have, we really don't pay attention to. And in our minds, a lot of times we balance it out, to, the benefits or the privileges that women do get. Now, I know black women will argue they don't get as many privileges as white women, but there's just certain expectations that don't fall on women. They fall on men. And what I hate about women is how, like, they dance back and forth between, this whole notion of, they want, to tear down the system to create this new system. But it always, the way that they present it, the way that they speak on it, it's always unfair. It's just, responsibility in a vacuum, with no benefits to men, right? Now, how come I'm bringing up white supremacy and how that plays out? Well, white supremacy is run by men, right? White men. And I'm looking at this video about the cycles and the rise and the fall of civilizations and all this shit, and how the banks and all that crap, they overextend themselves, and then all of their assets and currencies get sold off, and the bonds get sold off, all that, everything that was in that video. And then there's conflict and there's wars and everything, right? But here's the thing, right? As a man, when you're dealing with men, right? If I get into quote unquote mutual combat with another man and I kill that man, right? Because he's the opposition, right? Some people are going to jump up and call me a murderer. Some people are going to jump up and talk about the atrocities that me or my group took, and partook in when it came to eliminating those that wielded power previously and we took it from them, right? Or eliminating those that we had beef or we had issues with, right? Because if you're dead, I don't have to deal with your bullshit. I don't have to deal with you, right? I've eliminated you. You purged. You lost. You lost in the grand cosmic scheme of things. Your genes, your legacies don't go forward. You were wiped the fuck out. And now the world is what the fuck I make of it, right? The standards, all that shit is what the fuck I make of it. And the thing about being a man, and if we exist in this world of cycles and the rise and the falls of empires and all that shit, as a man, if I kill another man or take out another group, there is a level of respect that's given to that, even from women. Well, he asserted himself. He is alpha. He is the alpha one in the room. Doesn't matter what atrocities, what savagery, you get the bitches, you get the gold, right? Right? To the victors of war goes the spoils, right? That's what it is. But what I hate about women is when you're dealing with women and women present an issue or women present conflict, right? There's almost no way to deal with or interact with them. You can't just go out there and just purge women. You know what I mean? You can't go out there and force women into some, sort of situation without being hit over the head with, the rape and pillage label. Like, you don't get kudos for taking out women. You get kudos for taking out men, right? Even though the women will turn around and then talk about who is barbaric and, who is violent and all this other shit. At the same time, they're attracted to it because at the same time they look at it and again, to the victor goes the spoils of war, right? Like that scene in Fast and Furious, the first one, when Tyrese was like, yeah, if I win, and the two girls came up, they were like, yeah, if you win, you get the two of us. And then when he didn't win and he lost to Paul Walker, she came up to the car like, nigga, you ain't win, so you don't get us. You know what I'm saying? So, and I should look at it like, well, they're women and women have, their place. And that's what it is. But then when you listen to the T Noir, the nappy-headed Hoba, the Ferrari, when you listen to them, they want this new freaking paradigm, right? That's what they want. And they think that they can whine and bitch and complain, in order to get it. Whereas a black man, if I want to tackle or topple or deal with white supremacy, that has to be won by bloodshed, right? And even if I'm saying with women who think like the way that they think, this super ultra liberal, mindset, of fairness and justice and equality as they want to put it and see it, even if I went out there and toppled white supremacy, they would still be on that shit. They would still be arguing about women's position and women had more power and everything. Where, in other words, in order for me to get what the fuck I want, I gotta take that shit. Power is taken, it's not given. Women just sit there and they bitch about it. You see what I'm saying? They just bitch and whine and complain about it and really can't do anything about actually getting it. And that really just gets underneath my skin. Right? Because you really can't. I mean, how do you interact and deal with women? Like, how do you deal with that shit? You know what I mean? So I look at this when I look at the, white men, and I'm like, when black women, they'll come online and they file complaints, and black men are weak, and white supremacy has conquered them, and that's why we're acting like total bitches, and that's why we don't do X, Y, and Z, and that's why we disrespect you, and all this other shit. And I'm like, okay, so what is with all the shit that white men are talking about with the way that white women are disrespecting them? I'm like, is the white group not on top? Are they not the dominant group? You know what I mean? So it makes you look at it, and it's like, there is no, I don't care what your favorite color is. I don't care what race, a female is. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, you're going to have to deal with some, level of bitching and dissatisfaction, because at the end of the day, the way that the world is set up, women will never have the type of power that men have. They'll never have it. Unless they go, if men are out here, on some Braveheart shit, running at each other with swords and shit on the battlefield, right? And that's how they, assert their position. And then women, they don't do that. Like, it's always men versus men, killing each other, slaughtering each other. May the best man win, dominance, all that stuff, right? But with women, it's like, okay, how on this, this Amazonian planet that these women like want to come up with, or this pseudo equality that they want to come up with, how would women get that position? I mean, I've heard things like reduce the male population. Obviously women want to get rid of all the guns and all the weapons. I'm like, but men can still overpower you. So like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so then you end up with this seething, constant, perpetual hatred of men because of the way God set it up. You know what I'm saying? Just because men are bigger and stronger, and women are attracted to that, but let women tell it they have no participation in, in that, the evolution of the sexual dimorphism of men and women. I'm just saying, when it comes to white supremacy or any other beef with any other, male power structure, you're allowed to hate them. You're allowed to hate, whatever it's that system. You're allowed to fight it all the way to the goddamn death. But when it comes to women, despite women's hypocrisy and duplicitous thing, you're not allowed to hate them. You're not allowed to despise them. You most certainly aren't allowed to enact violence against them. You're not allowed to do that. So you just have to perpetually deal with their whining and their bitching and their fussing and their complaining. Even when, you assert yourself as the dominant individual and you're willing to share the spoils of war with her, it's still not good enough, because what she wants is power. She wants that dun 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 dun. She wants the Jaws music. And like Patrice O'Neal said, only men get the Jaws music. We get the Jaws music, because we the ones out here doing the Jaws shit. And again, there's levels to this shit. There's obviously a global superpower, all the way down to the the street level of this black street gang versus that black street gang. I'm saying there's always some sort of hierarchy amongst men in terms of asserting their dominance. Now, again, the mystical feminist will come in the room and they'll be like, and see, and that's why men are a problem, because men are just, they're innately violent and they just engage in violence, and look at the world. That's what that transgender man on Jubilee said. Well, look at the world. Men have been in control for thousands of years, and just look at the world. I mean, I'm like, God damn. I mean, just nothing positive in there. Just nothing positive in there. You know what I mean? Just, I mean, it's like, reminds me of like when Kat was talking about even his stepdad that shot his mother. He was like, look, I'd be lying to you. Yeah, it's fucked up that he shot my mother. But I'd be lying to you if I said that, every day was just, him just being on some savage shit. That's not how it was. Yes, there were times where I had to get my mother out the house and save her because he was drunk and, it was about to happen and he was about to put hands on my mother. But there were other times where, like, example, he was a truck driver, and I think, like, one summer, Cap drove across the country with him. Just him and Cap. And this is the same man who ended up, shooting his mother because they got into it, and obviously it was probably more to it than just that. But I'm just saying. He's like, I'd be lying to you if it was to sit there and say that it was just nothing but bad days because he was in our lives. He's like, that's not true. And when it comes to women, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? All these women want to act like, I mean, I don't even know how we got here, in the black community. Because it went from men aren't doing enough for black women to now it's, even if you're doing it, it's still not enough, and it's oppressive, and I mean, you could offer me the world. Like, in other words, it's like, what was it saying? It's like, you could offer them the world, but it's, in other words, if a woman wants power, you know what I mean? Privilege is not power. Saying, hey, chick, you get to be in the passenger seat of my Lamborghini. There's a lot of women that would like to be in the passenger seat of a Lamborghini that subscribe to patriarchy, but there's a lot of other women that don't. They somehow want to have their own Lamborghini. I'm like, boo-boo, have your own Lamborghini. But I'm not getting in the passenger seat. And so, like, that's the other way that it fails. And that's one of the reasons why, like, even on the Jubilee with the transgender men, and Cap, he pointed this out. He just mentioned it in passing, and we were talking about. He's like, yeah, basically, the reason why a lot of these women are trying to tear down, shit is because two ideas can't occupy the same space and be valued equally. They just can't. The way that the transgender men are trying to bring basically a woman in what phenotypically looks like a man, like a woman's mindset and what phenotypically looks like a man, they're trying to bring that into redefining manhood. I'm like, why you always got to come in and try to redefine shit? This is what manhood, this is what the fuck manhood is. That's the way that it is. And you get like these like 1% to 2% of people that come in the room and they want to redefine shit because they recognize that these two thoughts can't occupy the same space. Like, you can't have a society or a community where you have you can have single motherhood and two parenthood, or two parents in the same house, but you're not going to have a setup where they're valued equally. And any single mother will tell you that, there's times where she's going to feel funny, when around, other couples that stayed together. The child, she's going to be looked at like she's a bad mother. The child's going to be looked like the child's going without, even if she's a great and fantastic mother. It's just the value system is not going to allow, because again, the two parents is ideally the way that it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then what they try to do once they find themselves in a single mother situation is they want to eliminate the supposed to be part. I'm like, no, you don't eliminate the supposed to be part. I mean, that's like, you got somebody, two people, one person's fit, the other person's overweight. And one person's fit because, they diet and they eat, healthy food, and they don't put a whole bunch of, fat and grease and stuff in their food. They eat clean. And you get the other person that's overweight, but instead of like losing the weight, because that would be them conforming, they try to convince everybody that, that their diet is on par with the other person's diet. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, it's not on par. Like, that's greasy food. What are you talking about? That's going to make you fat. Well, there's ways that you can do it. And then this is where you get people that start trying to come up with shit that literally defies the laws of physics. Like when you start getting like dudes that want to tell you about how they're going to be head of household from a patriarchal standpoint without having resources. I'm like, that defies the laws of physics, my man. Yeah, if you're leading your household, she's allowing you to lead, but she's got the resources to say yay or nay. You see? And that's another aspect of it, with, the idea of women. Oh, we're out here killing it and we're making money. And yes, in the 21st century, with these sort of, you can make a lot of money as a woman with nothing more than a fucking laptop. You can do that. But all of that is still predicated on the infrastructure being maintained, which is maintained by men. But the women, they always goes over their head. They think that like the whole world of men doing shit can collapse all around them, and that they would still, be able to, drive to the bank and make deposits and take money out and do wired transactions and shit. Like, they still think that all that is going to be there, and that they're still going to be able to go to the supermarket and buy strawberries from Chile. Like, they just think, again, this goes back to that whole, well, society is already built bullshit. Completely ignoring the fact that society has to be maintained, and it's largely and overwhelmingly maintained by men. Like the way, and let me just just bring the main point back to this video. It's like the way that I would deal with men who cross me, men that I have a problem with, men that disrespect me, men that try to oppress me, men that try to attack me, right? The way that I would deal with those men, whether violently or non-violently, is a way that I cannot deal with women. And so women end up being, and it goes back to what my man said. He says it all the time. Every time I get upset and I get excited and I get frustrated, he's like, I already told you. Women are grown children. He's like, that's what they are. He's like, go ahead. Try to figure out a way in which women are not grown children. He's like, they're grown children. They have special status. You can't hold them accountable. You're supposed to protect and provide for them, right? You can't, he's like, how are you can't put shit on women because they're grown children. Children are dependents. Women are dependents. He's like, just because you get one woman out here, she's kicking ass and, she's Billy Badass and everything, that doesn't change the dynamic of the rest of the world. And they know that, and they hate that, which is why they're frustrated. Even if a woman went out here and did all the exact same shit that a man did, they would never gain the same recognition that men gain for doing the same thing. Don't matter what it is, you can pick it. They won't get the same recognition. Let a woman go out and provide for her family. The first thing people are going to say, men and women, where's your husband? Oh, you had to do this because some man somewhere failed you. And it's so funny because a lot of women like the idea of, yes, and men failed this, and that's what it is, and men are failure, but then they don't I'm like, you're missing the other half of that, that idea. The other half of that idea is that you need a man, and the only reason you're doing this is because a man has failed you. Not because you actually want to be in the power position. I know you like the idea of blame. Yes, because these niggas are weak and they're not here and they're not present. But if you're a woman who wants power, It's really saying that what you're doing and how you're doing things is not the way that it's supposed to be. And there's a lot of women, they want to be able to have it both ways. They want to be able to, yes, and we're only doing this because men failed, and then turn around and then talk about, women love power. And I'm like, yeah, women love power. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You want to be in control. But even when a woman is in control, there's a lot of things that women can do in the 21st century, to be as independent as she wants to be. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's just things that she's not going to get recognized for in the same way. She's not going to get her own theme music. You know what I mean? She's not going to be able to pull up in the Lambo and honk the horn, beep, beep. You know what I mean? And have a bunch of guys standing on the corner going, come running out to her Lambo, and she's like, yeah, get in, and look stupid like Nicki Minaj with her man in the passenger seat. She's not gonna be able to do that. It's like my other man told me. He was like, I wouldn't want to be a woman with money. He's like, being a man with money is just fucking fun. He's like, you can just go out and just do whatever the fuck you want to do. Pick up women. Women are attracted to you because, again, you're alpha, you're winning, you're making money, you're doing big things, right? They're moved by that shit. You know what I mean? But men are not equally moved unless a woman wants to get manipulated. They're not moved by a woman walking around swinging her big dick. And again, even women reinforce these ideas of why, men push back so hard and won't subscribe to what Tino R and all these other women are talking about, FD Signifier and nappy-headed Jehovah and freaking, who else? For Harriet. You know what I mean? Because women will sit, the women, they love, it's so funny because they want to advocate for this paradigm shift and moving in the direction that they want to move in, where women are empowered and we have the final say or equal say, right? But then they simultaneously love to slam the fuck out of men that don't live up to the expected responsibilities. Like I said, the responsibilities are always there. They always keep the responsibilities there. And what men are seeing, it's just like what people are seeing in their work. They're like, yo, my wages have been going down over the last couple of decades, or not. They haven't been keeping up with inflation. I'm doing the same goddamn work and I'm getting compensated less for it. Right? People get agitated after a while. They say, man, fuck it. I'm going to go find me a new job. I quit. Right? But what the social contract between men and women is the same thing. Men are looking around like, I'm expected to take on the burden of all this responsibility, and I don't get any of the recognition. This is why you get guys who went rogue a long time ago. You know what I mean? Even though I don't agree with what they're doing, because I'm like, there's no power in your position. But by the same token, they're not sitting around frustrated, with the fact that, when they're not, like, in other words, because they've as a father who doesn't pay child support, will get accused of in court. Sir, I hold you in contempt because I believe you to have willfully impoverished yourself. Right? Because a lot of times that'll be men's response when men say, fuck it, it's willful impoverishment. I don't have to live up to that shit. I don't have to operate like that shit. Now, willful impoverishment is kind of stupid. You know what I mean? But typically what the smart man will do is, he'll go Sigma or whatever. He'll go and, get his money, stack his bread, that whole pickup artist shit, run through bitches and everything. But that whole aspect, of legacies and generational wealth and passing shit on, which upholds and maintains society, that kind of goes to the wayside. It goes out the window. If he has a child with a woman, then she gets custody. Now you've just supported matriarchy. Right? So, it's like you get those guys that, and I hate the fact that a lot of those guys, they either were incapable or didn't want to do shit in the first place. and they're hiding behind the fact that, you know, shit is so fucked up with the women. Like, you go out there, you break your back, you do everything, and then you still end up with women who don't want to, what do you call it? You end up with women who don't want to, you know, play the game, even if you are providing, even if you are doing the classical, you know, patriarchal thing and providing and all that other stuff. Like, they hate that system. And so what do? Getting with a woman like that, that's disastrous. That's disastrous for your wealth generation. That's disastrous, you know, for your health. I mean, that's just disastrous. You know, to sit there and have a child with a woman like that, you're asking for it. You're asking for it. You know, but overall, you know, as more and more men basically start checking out of society, you know, shit's going to start clapping. Women are not going to fulfill these, you know, classically male roles. They're not going to fulfill these roles, you know, that men have previously played. They're not. And you're going to start seeing shit decay and collapse and break down, and the women are going to bitch. And the crazy thing is like the more you have, no, how do I say this? The less positive male identity that you have that's tied to productivity and work in a community and with proper compensation and all that, the more you're going to have rogue males. And the more like it's so crazy to me how, like, you get a man, he's providing for his family, and you'll say, hey, feminists, how do you feel about, you know, this heteronormative, cisgendered, patriarchal family that you see right here? How do you feel about these evangelical white Christians? Oppression, right? They'll jump up and they'll say that's oppression. But then you end up with the rogue male situation, which is what you see a lot in the black community, where you got Ray Ray and Pookie running around pumping and dumping women being single moms. And I'm like, that's real rape and pillage. I'm like, wouldn't you rather have the other scenario? And they kind of have this attitude like it's the wolf and the dog. I would rather be a wolf free in the wilderness scavenging for resources than be, you know, the dog and be a slave. And I'm not knocking it. I get it. Hell, especially as African Americans and shit, I totally get, you know, that position. But there just becomes a point where that shit just goes too far. Like, in other words, the fight against white supremacy was never supposed to turn into a goddamn gender war. It was never supposed to turn into, you know, a fight against your own men. It was never supposed to change and undermine that dynamic. But that's what it's done. That's where we are right now. And so now it's like, I mean, the black community has no hope of ever challenging white supremacy, even if it thought it did, because you don't have intact families. Once you don't have intact families, you're done. I mean, that's the end of it. The family is the fundamental unit of any community. Once you don't have that, it's over. And in the goofy type of family structures that, you know, these, you know, nappy-headed Jehovah, you know, for Harriet, T Noir, you know, FD Signifier and all them are trying to, like, advocate for, I'm like, and how is that going to challenge, you know, the dominant white society or the powers that be or any of that? How is that going to challenge any of that? How are you going to economically challenge shit in this capitalist system? And see, and this is where you get the people that run around with any place is better than here, right? But like there's nothing that exists there that equally is viable. And it kills me watching these people that are literally existing in the creature comforts of capitalism by running their mouths online and getting paid money to do it and don't have to lift a finger. They just wake up in the morning with an idea, sit at their computer, do a bunch of editing and get money for that, and don't struggle, refrigerator food, you know, don't have to worry about any of their bills, probably helping their parents out, all that shit, and then got the audacity to come online and talk about how we need to destroy this system. I'm like, you do realize that your internet will be cut off, right? You do realize that. Like, just like they don't make the connection. They're like, yes, tear down the system that I'm actually making money in right now, because any place is better than here. Right? And they try to get everybody else to be on board. And they really don't look at the fallout. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like all they look, it's like somebody who sets off a thermonuclear device and all they care about is the actual explosion. I'm like, there's fallout. Yeah, they're like you don't all the people that were in the blast radius, yeah, they were vaporized. All the people who were just outside the blast radius, yeah, they have, second and third degree burns. All the people out even further, yeah, they're going to die of freaking radiation poisoning. Like, it's not just the blast, just what's in the blast radius that you focus on. But these woke folks, they don't look at that. They're like, yes, just drop a bomb on them, and that'll be the end of that, and then we won't have to deal with that anymore. And maybe they have a more sophisticated plan. Maybe all this wokeness and shaming and cancel culture and everything, that's what they're going to do to somehow position themselves, to the top. You know what I mean? But I'm like, everything else is going to collapse. It's like the people, it's like Russia. Russia wants to take over Ukraine. But it's like, well, okay, why doesn't Russia want to just drop a bomb? If they got nukes, why don't they just drop a bomb on Ukraine? Now, obviously, there's other reasons. But what I'm saying is, the whole point is to take the shit over so that you can utilize that infrastructure. Going in there with this scorched earth, like Halo with the Covenant and glassing the planet, that type of shit, you're not going to get anything out of that. And that's what I see when I see, these different factions, these alternative lifestyle people, and we're changing shit and everything. They're on some glass earth type shit. I'm like, you do realize, like, you're not positioning yourself to be on top, because there's nothing for you. There's not going to be anything left for you to be on top of. That's what I'm saying. Like, do you not get that? They don't get that. They think, no, the system is oppressive. Yes, I agree. The system is oppressive. There's many aspects of the system being oppressed. But, as Patrick Moynihan pointed out in his Patrick Moynihan report of, what was that, 1964, 1965? You can't have a subordinate group operating on something completely different from the dominant group and think that they're going to challenge the dominant group. That's not going to happen. It's literally, it's like a bunch of ballerinas showing up to a boxing match. I'm like, this is not, this is not an opera. This is the boxing ring. You're going to get fucked up. They don't see it that way. But like I said, it's like, especially with all the woke culture and all this shit, like, you can't, there's no way to really confront it, other than, stack your money, stack your bread, ignore, don't choose, but, I think that we have enough men that were birthed in the matriarchy that the crazy thing is, they only become more problems for the women that advocated for a lot of this nonsense. And, those men end up, engaging in the rape and pillage, that the women complain about, that the women will further use to justify and rationalize why patriarchy needs to be done with, conflating what those rogue males do with patriarchy. And then when they come across a man that's actually got his ducks in a row, they'll say that, that he's a part of what the rogue Ray Ray and Pookie did. And I'm like, yo, that's you and him over there. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Yeah, yes, you do. You're a black man. I don't have anything to do with that. And so, we just end up with these, like, circular arguments when it comes down to this. But it's like, I can't explain it. How do I explain it? It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen two boys fight. It's like when you ever see two girls fight? Like, when two girls fight, the shit never ends. Like, it never ends. when two boys fight and you see the guys on the outside, nah. Let them fight. All right, break it up. Like when they're not like on their feet and they're like on the ground, break it up. You got about 3 times to get in there and for it to go back and forth. Like if guy number 1 wins and then guy number 2, loses, and then guy number 2 wins and then guy number 1 wins or loses, and then there's that last third round. It's about 3 rounds. There's about 3 breaking it ups until the fight is over. But I'm just saying, there's a slight level of respect that exists even between combatants. I remember when Chef G was up there talking about Sleepy Hollow on Vlad, about how they met each other, because Chef G was about to jump Sleepy Hollow with like 50 dudes. But then Sleepy Hollow stood his ground, and Chef G was like, nah. He was like, I got respect for this motherfucker because this motherfucker got a whole bunch of heart. Or was it the other way around? It might have been Sleepy Hollow running up on Chef G. Don't quote me on that. I forget who ran up on who. But one of them, before they became cool, one of them, was going to jump the other one. But, the other one stood his ground. And they respected that. But, it's like women have no such honor. There's no such honor with women. It doesn't matter. It's just all about the outcome and what they get out of it. And they don't care, who gets sacrificed. They don't care about the male ego. Obviously not. And again, I'm not saying that every time men, engage in combat with one another that it's fair. Sniping is not fair. Snipers are the most hated, when it comes to combat. But at the same time, it's like when one time I was talking to this Marine, and he was giving me his life philosophy on war, and he just said point blank, he was like, if I'm not cheating, I'm not trying. I'm not trying hard enough. If I'm not cheating, the goal is to win. The goal is not about good or evil or righteousness or justice. It's not about that. It's about winning, because once you win, then you get to define shit however the fuck you want to define shit. And men position themselves when it comes to defining shit via bloodshed. It always comes down to bloodshed ultimately. We can talk about capitalism and everything. The capitalism systems get set up after the blood has been shed. But when dealing with and interacting with women and them being adults and they come in with their shame and they come in with their bitching and their whining and talking about, what their demands are and all that shit. Like, and what's so pissing me off is like women always like devalue their influence. The first teachers, the first mothers, the breastfeeders, everything. Women have significant influence, and they always come through and act like they don't have any power at all. I'm like, women definitely have power. You just don't have as much power as men, but you definitely have power. But again, that's not good enough. They want their legacies to go on. They want to be Genghis Khan. You know what I'm saying? They want to be Pol Pot. They want to be Mao Zedong. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? They want to be the Tokugawa government. They want to be all that shit. They want to be, the Third Reich. They want to be, the ones, somehow, living, existing in the glory of the victories that they don't have like that as women. They're attached to the men who have those victories or have those losses. And arguably, maybe that's what gets underneath black women's skin, is the fact that black men lost. You all are weak. You all are lost. Right? But at the same time, with the little bit of power that you do have as the first teachers and the first mothers, I got to ask the question, what the fuck are some of y'all doing? The way that you think that you're going to get power through weakening your sons ain't it. Especially in the face of other groups that don't teach their sons the bullshit that you're teaching. And then when the boys get older, you slam them, you charge them with crimes, and these niggas are weak. And somehow it doesn't dawn on you that these weak men came out of your wombs. But that's not a reflection on you. That's just because niggas are separate. Black men are separate. They're not us and we're not them. Right? I said that shit years ago. Cap used to not know what the hell I was talking about. I was like, black women think of themselves as a different group. They're like a different group. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? Like they act like they're so separated. You might as well call them a different species. I've been peeped that. You know, and you saw that with the freaking Ice Cube shit, you know? And what about black women? Where are black women? What about black women? Are you kidding me? The contract with Black America, what are you, not black? That doesn't include you? No, we want something specifically for black women. You know, like, oh my God. And then you start getting into the Margot Jeffers, you know, Alice Walker, you know, Bell Hooks, you know, type of talking points. Oftentimes, when the black militant has something to say and he says black people, he does not include black women, and we are supposed to be his handmaidens, and da-da-da-da-da, and then start going all off on that shit. You know, I'd rather not be around, you know, women who act this way, you know, because, you know, like I said, like, if a man pisses me off enough, yeah, I can put hands on that motherfucker. But if a woman pisses you off enough, you can't put hands on her. You're not gonna win that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're bigger, you're stronger, but you're still not gonna win that. You know, and it's like, it's just like, I don't know if you all saw that clip with that dude that was in the Dollar Tree, and that no, excuse me, I think she was Latina. I don't know what she was. You know what I mean? But you know, she was, you know, grabbing on that dude's dreadlocks and everything. That man showed a fuck ton of restraint. There was even a point where he cocked his arm back, and he was just about to unload on that chick. And, you know, it's about 50-50 in terms of how men feel about that. You know what I mean? You know, if you think that you're just going to manhandle a dude like that, nah, chick. You got to be reminded how powerful you are not. But some men are like, nah, I'm not going to do this. And he showed an extreme level of restraint. Had that been a dude, you already know how it would have went down. They would have went to blows. Somebody might have pulled out. You know, but you know, we see time and time again this sort of bad behavior where you end up with these women that think that they can put hands on a dude and that nothing's going to happen. You know, they think in their minds that they're not only so much that they're just equal to him, that they're above him to the point where they think that physically they're above him. And I'm like, ooh, I don't understand. I don't understand that level of, you know, just not understanding some shit. It's like what Cap used to say, you know, about his mother. You know, a guy will roll up and, you know, try to rob them and pull out a gun. You know what I mean? Bitch, give me your money. Cap's mother would be sitting there. Huh, you called me a bitch. Mom, he has a gun. Who cares if he called you a bitch? He has the freaking end of time in his hand. Give him what he wants. Nah, she gonna focus on, he called me a bitch. Like, for real? For real? And I see a lot of black men that get caught up with that emotional shit that they get from, you know, from women, thinking that shit can't happen. I'm like, but you're a man. He's going to pull the trigger on your ass. You know what I mean? That guy pulls out and they sitting there, what you going to do with that, nigga? Just like this rapper down wherever that recently just got killed. What's his name? I'm going to pull it up right now. Where's that? Tampa rapper Rolly Bands shot and killed outside his apartment moments after posting a message to the ops. If a nigga wants smoke, pull up. I'm at my crib in 5 minutes. And guess what niggas did? They pulled up. You see what I'm saying? Like there's just this whole layer of men interacting with men that women just don't understand. They don't understand it. And even them transgender men on Jubilee, they didn't understand it. You know, they were like, and it's male privilege, and I have a female boss, and when I go to work, and because I present as a man, when I tell the patrons that come in to put their mask on, they just put it on. But when she says it, they just look at her like, whatever, bitch. Yeah, because the idea is that there is physical power that comes behind you being a man. And even other men are like, okay, do I really want to get into it with this dude, or do I not? But when a woman tells you to do something, y'all women got to understand, a lot of times it's just a courtesy. Things like, not cursing around you as women that we don't do as men and stuff. Like, we don't do that because we fear you. We don't do that shit because, oh shit, you better get quiet because she might beat your ass. We don't do that. That's a courtesy. But y'all stop looking at shit like courtesies. Y'all thinking that you got the power. Yeah, that's right. They didn't curse around me because they recognize the motherfucker that I am. No, they did not recognize the motherfucker that you are. Stop. And that's what women hate. It's like this major form of penis envy. But the thing about those Jubilee people, I talked about this in another video, but the thing about the Jubilee, the transgender men that were on the Jubilee, it's like, and I do not like Brandon Tatum, but I gotta give him credit when he made a good point, because I was about to jump through the damn computer screen and say this shit, is when he went up there and he basically said, what did he say to that woman, or that transgender man? He was like, yeah, but you ignore the fact that, yeah, you were listened to when you told somebody to put on the mask, and, your female boss didn't get the same reaction. But if somebody were to walk in the building and start attacking people, guess who's going to be looked upon to respond? You are. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you ignore that shit. You just completely ignore it. And the only one that was up there that actually acknowledged, what he was saying, even about being a threat. With other guys, they were white. You had the one guy, that was taking testosterone for 10 years, one of the transgender men, and he was up there basically saying, he was like, yeah, but I'm a black man, and the way that I get treated when I go out here, the idea of being a threat and violent and all that other shit, is like, my experience is completely different. You know what I mean? So there's a whole bunch of nuances that they don't understand. And think about it. These are transgender men. These are women who want to be men, and they don't get it. So you already know, when it comes to the straight women out here, they really don't get it. The feminists out here, they don't get it at all. Or the women that are LGBT, or not into men, or whatever it is. I'm just saying, they don't want to be a man. You would think that the women that want to be men, want to be men on the basis that they really understand what it is to be a man, pros and cons. But no, they just I want to be a man, and I just see all the pros and none of the cons. I'm like, let some shit happen, and you can't be in the corner screaming like a little bitch. Oh, you can't. No, you gotta act. That's what is expected of you. You see, and so, like, when women talk all this equality shit, man, that flip-flopping that they do, trying to shame you into playing some sort of bitch-ass subordinate position only for their vaginas to dry the fuck up on you, no. There are way more reasons why men don't subscribe to gender equality and feminism and everything that go beyond just misogyny and a deep-seated hatred of women and misogynoir and all this other shit. It goes beyond that. It goes to all the ancillary shit on the outside that nobody really pays attention to, other than, when a woman files a complaint. Because when a woman files a complaint, they don't care who it hits or how hard it hits somebody. They just filed the complaint. And now you, as a man, the ball's in your court. Now you have to act and respond. And they think that they can just be able to just, present you with equality and then throw that on you whenever they get to some bridge that they can't cross. Fuck that. So like I said, that's my, frustration. Deal with white supremacy, win or lose. I'm saying there's a particular way to deal with other men, whether it's white supremacist men or whatever. It's a different particular way to deal with that. I know how to deal with that. But dealing with women and trying to be fair and just and rational, oh, God. I mean, just forget about it. Forget about it. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Those are my thoughts. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe.